Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Transformational Tuesday with Tasha. Hey, everyone, I'm Tasha Scott, and I'm your host for this weekly podcast that we do every week. And we've been going over this book, Atomic Habits. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in, y'all. For those of you all who come regularly, thank you so much for your support. For those of you all who this is your first time meeting me, I am in Montgomery, Alabama, and I own a company called Maximized Growth LLC, and we do training and development. Excuse me. And today we are talking about a continuation conversation on atomic habits. And y'all, this is episode 13, week 13. So, this right here is the result of habits for sure. We have been doing this journey getting the information and implementing the information and taking action. And I'd like to say this is kind of like a mastermind group because not only am I sharing information, but the feedback and the comments that y'all give has been very just engaging, very helpful. So thank you all so much for being on the journey with me, and welcome to everyone. This is your first time. I'm going to dig into a little review just in case this is your first time joining us today. Well, in the book Atomic Habits, and this was written by James Clear, Mr. Clear talks a lot about the laws of behavior change. And he broke this book down into sections. And it's two parts, really: how to create great habits or better habits, and how to break bad habits. And all the four laws of behavior change talks about both of those. So when it comes to creating those good habits, one of the first things that Mr. Clear talks about is make it obvious. In other words, make it obvious who you want to be, the habit that you want to adopt. And then the second one he talks about is make it attractive. The third one he talks about make it easy. And that's what we're talking about tonight in that section on make it easy. And really what we're going to be digging into, y'all, is procrastination. How many of y'all, I've got both hands up. I'll be honest, okay? How many of y'all have dealt with or struggle with procrastination? We're going to talk about some ways that we can overcome that tonight. And y'all, it's so simple. It's crazy how simple it is. But those are the ways that Mr. Clear talked about the laws of behavior change: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy. And we're on the make it tonight. And for those of you all who are interested in learning how to break up with old habits, he really says do the inverse. So on the breaking up with bad habits, if we're going to make it obvious for the good habits, we're going to make the bad habits invisible. The second thing he says is we're going to make it unattractive and then make it difficult. So that's why I say it's broken down into two parts. And tonight we're focused on the make it easy, creating good habits, but we're going to break up with procrastination tonight. Mila, thank you so much for joining me tonight. My daughter's name is Mila, so that threw me off, but good evening to you. All right, y'all. So let's dig into this. For me, let me see here. I've got some good notes. You know what? Let me back up and do a deeper dive into what we talked about last week, because this is also going to help set the stage. So he talked about last week in the whole make it easy that we need to make our good habits convenient, because a lot of times we make the hard things complicated. We make the hard things easy and make the easy things complicated. So what he's saying tonight is it's possible, or last week he said it's possible to do the hard things by just making it easy. And he was talking about how we should break our habits down into bite-sized pieces, into doable steps. And so using that platform from last week, he really says that we can stop procrastinating by using a 2-minute rule. And he used an example of a lady named Twyla Tharp, and she's a worldwide dancer. And she talks about how every morning she begins her day with a predictable routine or predictable ritual. She does the same thing every morning habitually. And the reason why she does this is because it reduces the chance of her skipping something or or doing something differently. And it's one less thing that she has to think about. And researchers have said that 40 to 50% of our actions on any given day are done out of habit. And what happens is that habits are automatic choices that really influence the conscious decisions that we follow. What happens though is a lot of times when we're procrastinating, we've committed to the wrong habits. We've committed to the wrong things. But he said a habit can be completed in a few seconds, and that those few seconds are literally what shape the actions for what follows the minutes or the hours afterward. And he says it's easier for us to continue what we're already doing than for us to start doing something different. And here's some examples. He says, he gave in the book, we can sit through a bad movie for 2 hours because we've started it, so we're committed to seeing it through. Or maybe we've eaten a meal and we find ourselves that we keep snacking even though we're already full. We've committed to the action, and so we see it through. Or he says, maybe it's with our phones. We say, I'm just going to check my phone for just a second. And then the next thing you know, we've spent 20, 30, maybe an hour scrolling on our phone because we've committed to the action. And this is the same principle when it comes to procrastination. Like I said, a lot of times it's just a matter of what have we really committed to. So maybe we should really rethink this procrastination thing and really hone in on our commitments. What do y'all think? He says here that habits that we follow without thinking determine the choices you make when you are thinking. And all of us have a handful of decisive moments throughout our day, that those decisive moments literally determine whether we're going to have a good day, whether we're going to have a productive day, or whether it's going to be a bad day. We all have decisive moments, and those decisive moments are what we are committing to. Every day is basically about our commitments. What are we willing to commit to? For example, I use the phone as an example. Most of us, majority of the time, are committed to scrolling on social media. We're committed to it. So, therefore, because of that one commitment, it is robbing us of our other commitments that could be more productive or help us be more progressive. Am I talking to anybody yet? Think about it. We don't have a problem committing to things. It's just that we're committed to the wrong things. So what we have to do is we have to pay more attention to our decisive moments. And a lot of times those decisive moments, he says literally when it comes to procrastination, that he said he follows this 2-minute rule. A lot of times those things we're committing to, we've committed within the first 2 minutes or less, and we just continue to see it through. One of the things for me, I've always got to talk about my health journey with y'all. One of the things for me I've committed to is becoming healthier in this season. I've committed to working out. I've committed to going to the gym. I've committed to a trainer. But here's the thing, my decisive moments, it didn't start at the gym. I didn't just wake up and commit to going to the gym 3 days a week. I didn't just wake up and commit to this lifestyle. Not perfect, but committed. You know when it started? It really started when I made a commitment with myself to say, you know what? I want to be a better version of me. And then I had to commit to what does that look like? So one of the things that I did was I knew the trainer. It's a husband and wife, but I knew the wife. I knew both of them, but I reached out to the wife. So I made a commitment at home one day and I said, I want to be a better version of me. What I'm doing is not working the way that I feel like it should. So I committed to reaching out to her. And I sent her a Facebook Messenger actually. And I said, this is what I actually said. I said, I want to train like a bodybuilder or for a fitness competition, but I don't really want to compete. This is actually what I told her. But in my mind, what I was thinking is I want to commit to being healthier. And I knew the kind of person that I am, that I would need a routine that would challenge me. And so my commitment started with me just reaching out and connecting with her. Again, it didn't start with me going to the gym 3 days a week and being on a meal plan. It didn't start with all of that. It started with me making a decision. I had a decisive moment. And in that moment, I reached out to her. So when I first started with her, I started with 2 days a week. We did Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we had a routine going. And after the first, I would say probably the first 6 months, I knew that I wanted to up it more. I was in a routine. I had my habits, and now I'm training again. It's a husband and wife that owns a gym. Now I'm doing a lot of the training with her husband, which has really upped the challenge. And now I'm doing 3 days a week, and because I've committed to this, now I have a routine that I follow when I go to the gym. And here's my routine. And I just wanted to give you an example of how a decisive moment can lead you to another decisive moment. And all of these decisive moments lead to your commitments. So now my workout routine, because I've committed to showing up, I've committed to scheduling this time on my calendar. And here's the thing, my schedule is, I'm busy. I don't have the same week. The next week won't look like this week, and last week didn't look like this week. So my schedule is busy. It would be easy for me to say, well, I can't commit to that day and time, so I guess I can't do it. I guess I can't commit. But what I do is at the end of the week, whether it's a Friday or Saturday, I pull out my calendar and I'll book my next appointments. That's me honoring my commitments. That's me having a decisive moment. I'll make the appointment. And then when I show up, and again, it may not be the same time as it was last week, but I'll show up and this is my predictable routine that I've committed to because of my trainer. The first 15 minutes, I hit the elliptical. Then, after I hit the elliptical, I go to the mat and I do an ab routine. And my ab routine consists of 60 Russian twists, 60 side crunches each leg, 300 crunches, 60-second plank, 60 Supermans, 40 to 50 push-ups. And then after I'm done, then I'll do my workout with my trainer, which is probably about 30 minutes. And then after I'm done with that, then I'll do my 10 to 15 minute sauna. Why am I sharing all this with you? I'm sharing this with you to talk about the commitments that I'm making in order to become a healthier version of me. And again, I didn't start off doing all of these things that I just shared with you. But here's the beauty of commitment, y'all. When we just start, and a lot of times it's in the first 2 seconds of you making a commitment. When you make the commitment, when you make the decision, you start somewhere. And the more that you commit, the more you'll be able to do or become whatever your thing is. So, this is where I'm at now in my commitment because of the accountability, because of the support, because of the habits that have been instilled. Are y'all following me? So, again, my decisive moment was calling the train or texting the trainer and scheduling the appointments. And even when my schedule is unpredictable, even when I'm tired, even when I don't feel like it, I have committed in my decisive moments. And therefore, it is harder. That's where I'm going with all this. Therefore, it is harder for me to procrastinate because I have the system in place and I've got the support and the accountability to back it up. Are y'all following me? Your thing may not be fitness, your thing may be something completely different. But every one of us have decisive moments that we need to commit to. As I was sharing mine, were you thinking about something about yourself? Were you thinking about some decisive moments that you have to make or commit to? If so, do me a favor, type yes in the comments. Were you thinking about your decisive moments? And last week we talked about how we don't need to make this thing so complicated. We have to start with the most obvious step that's in front of us. And for me, the most obvious step was picking up my phone and texting the trainer and saying, can you train me? That was the most obvious step in front of me. I didn't even see all the stuff that I'm doing now. Couldn't see it, but I just had to take a step. I had to have that decisive moment and commit to it. And really, the difference between a good day or a bad day is really just the series of decisive moments. It's really going to boil down to our commitments. What are we willing to commit to? Are we willing to commit to getting lost on our phone when we could be doing something productive? What are we willing to commit to? Because here's the thing, y'all, we don't have commitment issues like we think. The real bottom line is we have what's really holding us up is what we're committing to. It's quiet over here in this comment section. Is this talking to anyone? Is this helping anyone? This is what it boils down to, is it boils down to our commitments. It boils down to those decisive moments. What are you willing to commit to? In this case, in my case, it wasn't when I'm sorry, the commitment came when when I reached out. It wasn't the gym itself. It wasn't the training schedule. It wasn't any of those things. It was the moment, the decisive moment that I reached out. So in this chapter, he introduces this whole 2-minute rule. And in the 2-minute rule, he says a lot of times we want to start things really big. I talked last week about how I had this whole thing about how I wanted to be on camera, and it was like a lights, camera, action production when really all I had to do was just pull out my phone and record myself. A lot of times we want to start with things too big when really we just need to start with the small, simple steps that are in front of us. And when you dream about making a change or you dream about the end goal, a lot of times what happens is we get really excited. And I'm the worst offender when it comes to this. We get really excited about things and we try to do too much too soon, which is another reason why we tend to procrastinate, because we bit off more than we can chew. And then what happens is the excitement wears off and we find ourselves stalled. We find ourselves stuck and overwhelmed maybe. So that's what happens a lot of times, that we stop committing to in our decisive moments. But what he's saying is, in that 2 minutes, the most obvious step that's in front of you, what could that look like? Your thing may be, I want to read more. It could be something as simple as that. Well, a 2-minute version of starting that could be, I'm just going to read one page. I'm just going to read one page out of this book. I'm not going to try to read the whole chapter. I'm just going to try to start where I'm at. Maybe all you have is 5 minutes. I'm just going to start with that 5 minutes. That's what I'm committing to. I'm making the decision. I'm committing in this decisive moment. Here's one, and this is another one. I'm telling all my business here. Folding clothes, right? How many of y'all like me? Like, this is a whole week long project. you know, laundry is one thing, but folding is a completely different thing, right? And so, one of the things Mr. Clear suggests in the book, he says, maybe instead of beating ourselves up over, man, I got that basket of clothes that I haven't folded, he said, what if you just said, you know what, the most obvious thing in front of me is maybe I'm just folding one pair of socks right now. Maybe that's the most obvious thing. Maybe that's the thing that I've committed to. And then maybe tomorrow is something else, or the next day is something else. But what we've got to do is, in our decisive moments, just learn to just honor the commitments in the most simplest, smallest way that we can. Mila says, I have a few projects I have been procrastinating about. Eventually, I have to get them done. The hardest part is starting. Set some time apart and just start. That's it, Mila. That's it. And I'm being guilty of this too, because sometimes we think we've got to have the whole hour or we need the whole day. And really it's not that. It may be just the 5 minutes. You know, Cleaning the house could be one thing. Maybe we don't have time to clean the whole house in one day. Maybe the focus should be a drawer. Maybe that's the most obvious step, or a room, or a section. We've got to stop beating ourselves up. And what happens is when we beat ourselves up, we have the negative energy and the negative vibes, and then we're in this resistance state, and that affects our confidence, it affects our productivity, and that's a lot, y'all. That's a lot. So here's another one. He says, maybe somebody's thing, I don't know why I keep going back to this health thing, but hey, maybe it's for someone. He says, maybe your thing is, you say, you know what, I want to run 3 miles. I want to run a 5K, or I want to start working out. He said, maybe the most obvious step in front of you is just putting on your shoes and going for a walk. Or maybe just putting on the shoes. Maybe that's the most obvious step right there. Maybe the walk may be too much for you right now. Maybe it's just, committing to saying, you know what, I'm just going to tie my shoes today, and I'm not saying that to belittle anybody's thing, but I'm saying, what is the most obvious step that you can take? What does that look like for you? Not your neighbor, not somebody else, but what does that look like for you? Because the thing for you may be easy for someone else, but nobody knows for you, it may just be the very thing that you needed just to overcome the hurdle to get there, right? Another thing he says is, what is it? Like I said, maybe it's the one page, folding the one pair of socks, tying your shoes, but whatever that is, once you start doing it, the next time you go to do it, the easier it will become. In fact, in the book, he talked about this gentleman who wanted to lose weight. He needed to lose weight. He was it was affecting his health. And what he ended up doing, he said, you know what, I'm just gonna start with 5 minutes. So he got a gym membership, and he went to the gym, and he said, today I'm just going to see what I can do for 5 minutes. That's literally what he did. And then the next day, or whenever he went again, he exceeded that 5 minutes. Maybe it was like 10 minutes. And then the next thing you know, he started going and stopped focusing on the time. And the next thing you know, he had a whole routine going, and he ended up losing a lot of weight a year later. It took him a whole year. But for him, just going to the gym and staying for those 5 minutes was the mountain that he had to climb to get to where he is now. That was his simple start. Mr. Clear says in the book that a new habit should not feel like a challenge. Now, the actions that follow can be challenging. They can. But the first 2 minutes, the decision, it shouldn't feel like a challenge. It should be that decisive moment where we literally just make up our mind to say, I want to do this. For me, it was reaching out to the trainer and saying, I want to do this. Not knowing how, not knowing if it was even possible, but just making up my mind to say that I want to. That part, just that I want to, right? I want to. And for me, the desire to do it meant reaching outside of myself. And your thing may be whatever within your 2 minutes of you making a decision. Maybe it's going to require you to reach outside of yourself for help or support from somebody. Maybe it's an accountability partner. Maybe it's a coach. Maybe it's a mentor, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe it's a partner, a friend, whatever. But just making the decision to say, this is what I want. And in those 2 minutes, giving yourself permission to want what you want. That part right there. Giving yourself permission to want what you want without canceling it out with your doubts, without canceling it out with your negativity about all the ways that it won't work. Maybe your thing is to start a business. And maybe your most obvious step is picking up a book to read about starting a business, or Maybe your first step was actually showing up tonight to listen about how to stop procrastinating. Maybe that was your first step. And that was you giving yourself permission because you invested time, you invested your energy. It's okay to want what you want. It's okay to give yourself permission to go for it. Are y'all following me tonight? Here's he says here, what you want is a gateway habit that naturally leads you down a more productive path. A gateway habit is what actually opens the door. I have another story I wanted to share with you. I This was back in 2008. I actually ran in a marathon, and when I say ran, I walked a marathon, and I wanted to do this. Remember, I said it's okay to want what you want. I wanted to do this. But when I reached out for help, because this is a real thing that we need to talk about, when I reached out for help, all I got was, you can't do that. I've never, this is what people even told me, I've never done that before. Why would you want to do that? But I really wanted to, it was on my bucket list. I wanted to do a marathon. And for a moment, I got discouraged because everywhere I turned for support, I kept getting all this negativity. And so I would just put it off. I would put off going for the walk. I would put off going to get fitted for shoes. I would procrastinate because I kept hearing other people say to me, you can't do that. You can't do that. Why would you want to do that? And what time are you going to try to come in anyway? Like, I literally got a lot of negativity. And I'm sharing this just in case somebody is sitting on the other side of this and they're saying, Tasha, I have reached out for help. I have asked people, but all I've been met with is negativity. And so what happens is the thing that you want, you've put it off. It's a dream. You've put it off. It's a desire. You've put it off because other people put their limitations on you because maybe they've never done it, or maybe they're, I don't know, whatever reason, right? And so I finally said, you know what? I want to do this. And so I set out. And the first thing I did was I went out and bought some shoes. I went and got fitted for shoes. That was my first step. And then I started walking my neighborhood. And for me, when I started walking, I remember walking the loop, and I would go, when I started walking, that was all I did was just walk. And back then we had watches that were called Garmin's. Anybody remember those? So I would take my Garmin and I would set my timer. My walks then elevated to, I would walk from pole to pole, light pole, and then I would run from light pole to light pole. And then I started timing myself and picking up to where I had a system of running and walking. And I did this. And then that was the next thing that I did, the most obvious step. I started picking up my pace. I found a schedule. I actually did a 5K. I did an 8K. So my progress was improving. And I started just doing it. And I had to motivate myself in a lot of these cases. And next thing I had to do was I had to register for the marathon. And I decided to register for a marathon in San Diego, California. And a lot of times people were like, why are you doing this? You know, people were like, you're crazy. I wouldn't want to go that distance. You know, all this stuff. I kept hearing the negativity. But something in me learned how to take the negativity and let it fuel me. I didn't let it stop me. I didn't let it make me procrastinate. I didn't let it do anything. And I'm probably telling this story to myself right now more than y'all, but this was like a stone of remembrance back then. I kept doing what I knew to do because I wanted what I wanted. I wanted to do a marathon. And so then after I registered for the marathon, the next thing was I bought an airline ticket to go to San Diego. And I got on the plane. I did all the obvious steps that were in front of me. I showed up for the race and I completed the marathon. I walked and ran just like I planned, just like I practiced. And that back then was a confidence booster for me because it showed me that it was possible that I could want something, I could achieve a dream, I could have a dream, I could go after it, I could accomplish it in the face of negativity, in the face of, there were days when I would be practicing in my neighborhood, it'd be raining. It'd be all this stuff, but I didn't let it stop me. And that showed me what was possible in me if I just set my mind to something. Are y'all following me? And so, again, when it comes to overcoming procrastination, I can't stress this enough. Make a decision. What do you want to commit to? And then, whatever that is, do the most obvious things that are in front of you to achieve that thing. So, y'all, I literally have a medal where I completed a marathon. I ran, walked. My time didn't have to look like anybody else's. I wanted to start something, I wanted to finish something. So, whatever your thing is, it may not be as big as a marathon. It may be finishing a book, it may be cleaning your house, it may be starting a business, it may be becoming more confident. Whatever your thing is, you don't have to procrastinate because, again, when I talk about procrastination, I'm talking about commitment. You don't have to commit to the wrong things. The very first thing that we talked about in this book was about who are you becoming in the process of all of this. All roads lead back to identity. All roads lead back to you. And so for me, um, some of the things that I'm talking to you about from my own journey, it literally goes back to who is Tasha. Who am I? What are my habits fueling me to become? I want to be a person who has integrity. I want to be a person who can finish what they start. I want to be a person who is strong from the inside out. So therefore, all of my habits, it's bigger than just going to the gym. It's bigger than me saying I completed a marathon. This is about me becoming who I'm supposed to be. Just like in your case, your thing may be you've procrastinated over cleaning the corner of your desk. I don't know. But what's bigger than that is who are you becoming in the process? Because every habit that you set out to do that's a good habit, that is taking you one step closer. And every habit that you're breaking up with, it's also reminding you who you're not, right? So, who are you becoming in the process? The very thing that you can do is in your decisive moments, make the decision. Just make the decision. In the face of fear, in the face of negativity, in the face of doubt, just make the decision and put one foot in front of the other and do the most obvious thing that you know to do. And all it requires is 2 minutes or less for you to make that decision, for you to commit to who you're becoming and to want what you want. So, he gave another example here. He says, when you can learn how to master those first 2 minutes of the smallest version of whatever that looks like, what you're really doing is you're taking actions that will confirm the person that you want to be. That's what you're really doing. Here's some key insights for tonight. Is this helping you, first of all? Is there anything that I'm sharing tonight that's resonating with you? If it is, will you let me know in the comments? But here's some key insights. The choices that we make daily lead us on our habit path. Our lives, our days, our weeks, our months, all they are is a culmination of decisive moments that we get to determine, is it good? Is it bad? Are we progressive? Are we stuck? Are we going forward or are we going backwards? To combat procrastination and learn how to start new habits, we can use this 2 minute rule. And the 2 minute rule is there for us to have, to really, for us to decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to go the good route or are we going to go the bad route? And we have 2 minutes. And he says it can take just 2 minutes to start shaping a new habit with our goals. Start your gateway habit and slowly increase your challenges. You don't have to accomplish everything at once, but you can start with one step, one decision. And here's two optional action steps. I always love to give y'all something to think about or something to do with this information that I'm giving you. So, two optional action steps. If you've heard me today and you're like, yep, there's some good habits that I need to adopt that will help me. And there's some habits that I need to break up with so that I won't be hindered anymore in my growth journey. So, the first thing you can do is you can either downscale the habits that you find difficult and start to, you find them difficult to start, but you can downscale it. And kind of like what we talked about last week, is break that thing down. And what's the most obvious thing that you can do in your decisive moment? Or you can use the 2 minute rule to see how you can apply it to a habit that you want to begin. Mila says, I am definitely inspired by today's message. In fact, I will complete one of the smaller tasks right after this meeting. I love it. You are welcome, Mila. I love it. I love it. All it takes is just the courage, y'all. Just the courage to be who we are. That a lot of times is the hardest hurdle because we have resistance. That's what it is. It's resistance. So Mila, thank you for sharing that. And my challenge to everyone else, which action step will you take today? Will you take the one where you say, I need to take something that I'm already doing and break that thing down to where it's not as difficult as I've made it? Or will you use the 2 minute rule to make a decision to say, you know what, I'm going to apply this to a good habit that I want because that good habit is going to fuel me to become the person that I want to become. I want to thank y'all so much for watching this. If you are watching the replay, do me a favor because I hear a lot about people watching this, and a lot of from my analytics on YouTube, a lot of it is saying like 71% are unsubscribers that are watching this. But I would love for you to do me a favor if you're watching this. Um, no matter what platform you're watching, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, do me a favor. Go over to YouTube and subscribe to this channel. And let me know that you're watching the replay just by putting hashtag replay. I'm trying, I'm trying and I'm doing what this book is saying. I am learning to, in my own life, of course, on my health side, but even in my business, I'm taking one foot and put it in front of the other, and I'm building this business. And me coming and doing these is really me putting one foot in front of the other, and having good habits about preparing, about showing up so that I could build the business that I know that I'm called to build. So please subscribe, like this, share this out. And next week, we are going to be on chapter 14 in the topic Atomic Habits. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to make your good habits inevitable and how to make your bad habits impossible. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And if anything that I shared with you helps you to progress, please let me know. You can do that by commenting on this, or you can email me because I want to celebrate with you. My email address is Tasha at maximizedgrowthllc.com. I'm cheering for you. I am on the journey with you. Thank you so much. And until the next time, just y'all keep it simple. Don't make it difficult, and just do what you know to do. Become who you're supposed to become. Y'all take care. Bye.